Have you ever wanted a V8 powered Wrangler? Well, now you can have one. That is the 392. It is a $75,000 Wrangler. And in this video, we're gonna find out, is it worth it? Let's hit the trails.
So you're out here on the trail and you have no cell service and you wanna know where to go. What will you do? Well, Ted from Onyx is gonna help us through that. Ted, tell us what you do.
Yeah, well, we've made thousands of trail maps onto an app, and so before you head out, you can plan your trip using Onyx Off-Road and save your offline maps, because once you save that to your tablet or your phone, you have all that information at the tip of your fingertips. It really enables you to go out, have a good time, have a safe time, and come back.
First things first, let's see how quick it is. Let's launch it. 470 horsepower, the same amount of torque, four-wheel drive high, traction control off, hold the brake, build some RPM, release the brake. Oh, wow! That feels so unnatural. I can't express to you what that feels like. It's a Wrangler. You expect it to be very upright, very off-road worthy, sort of compromised on the road, but you don't expect it to be 4.5 seconds 0 to 60 according to Jeep, 13 seconds in the quarter. That's insane. The power and torque from the 6.4 liter Hemi, it's just absurd. It's basically the same engine you'd find in something like the Challenger Scat Pack. It is far more than you would ever need in a Wrangler. I mean, it's wild to think that this Jeep is quicker than some Ferraris from 15 years ago. It's overkill. You just so much as crack the throttle, the transmission doesn't even need to downshift, and you just rock it off into the sunset. It has torque at 1100 RPM, it has torque at 5000 RPM, it's got power at 3. I mean, there's just gobs of everything. It's so incredibly overkill. The 6.4 liter Hemi has to be able to breathe, and it's got a pretty special exhaust system. First of all, it's a true dual exhaust. From the headers all the way back, there are two separate pipes for each bank of cylinders. Somewhere right about here, there's an X pipe, and at the back, there's a muffler. Now, driving it around every day, you'll leave it in quiet mode. Here's what it sounds like. Okay, that wasn't bad, but a little bit subdued until you click this exhaust button. What that does, two vacuum actuators back here at the muffler open and bypass the muffler altogether. That turns this Jeep into a straight piped machine. And now listen to what it sounds like. Yeah, I have a feeling most owners are just going to leave that button clicked all the time. Now, the way the Wrangler sucks air in is just as impressive as the way it gets exhaust out the back. You see, having such a big engine requires quite a bit of intake. And this has something called the Hydro Guide hood. Now, you may notice this hood. It's off of a Jeep Gladiator Mojave, and it's got the huge scoop in the front. But you're probably thinking, how do you have a Jeep with such a big scoop that's meant to forward water? Well, a lot of clever engineering. These little rubber flaps let water out if they're sucked through the hood scoop and allow air to keep flowing right into the intake. It's a very complicated system, but it's necessary in order to let this engine breathe. Out on the trail, it's a Wrangler Rubicon. It's incredible. What can I tell you? Locking differentials in the front, locking differentials in the back. It's got a sway bar disconnect, all-terrain tires. The 392 only comes in the Rubicon trim, so don't think you can save money by getting a Sport or a Sahara. No, Rubicon only, and it's incredible off-road. I mean, I have a little saying, if you can't get there in a stock Wrangler Rubicon, there is probably not meant to be gotten to, if that makes sense. Is it as capable as a 2-liter turbo Wrangler or a 3.6 Pentastar? probably more or less. It is quite a bit heavier than those two, but it's really good at the slow rock crawling stuff. And it's even pretty good at some high-speed desert running. Now, as awesome as the 392 is, there are a few issues. They lifted the Jeep an inch to accommodate the larger engine, but the tires are too small. They're still 33-inch tall tires. Bronco now has the option for 35s from the factory. Come on, Jeep, let's see you do it too. Although I have a feeling it might get gallons per mile rather than MPG, because combined this is rated somewhere around 13 miles per gallon. It is a thirsty beast, and the fuel tank is the same capacity as any other Wrangler Rubicon Unlimited, 21.5 gallons. I also think the design is a little bit too subdued. They've gone with this bronze gold pattern. Now, the head of Jeep told me that's because they wanted it to be the gold standard, and that's cool and all, but I don't know. This is the top dog Wrangler. I want flames on the side and side pipes and just craziness. Some people will like that it's under the radar, but for 74, 75 grand, I'd like just a little bit more nuts, because the engine certainly is. The same thing applies to the interior. It's good, it's a nice interior. The 392s are all pretty much fully loaded, but it isn't that different from a standard Wrangler. I mean, it's got paddle shifters and a nicer steering wheel and these more contoured seats, but I don't know, for 75 grand, I'd like to see some super luxurious tech like standard power seats. How about standard ventilated seats, stuff like that. And then we come to the engine. If you haven't noticed, the Wrangler is a pretty narrow vehicle, and a lot of the width is actually taken up by these plastic fender flares. The engine bay itself is, well, it's pretty small. And a 6.4 liter Hemi is pretty big. It is absolutely jammed into this engine bay within an inch of its life. There is no spare room anywhere. Now, in case you're wondering, no, it hasn't overheated out on me on the trail today, but I will say, I feel sorry for the chap that has to do a water pump on one of these, or even a serpentine belt. They had to move the alternator up here, they say for water fording capability. To be honest, I'm not sure it would fit anywhere else. But problems aside, I am so glad they built this. I mean, I really do think this is the last of an era. The last gasp of let's just throw the biggest Hemi we can into the smallest vehicle. From here on out, I really do think we're going to see a shift to electrification, which is cool. I mean, that's great, but there's just something special about that. It really, truly is something amazing. I mean, this is like the epitome of hot rodding. After talking to the engineers, they take the biggest engine they possibly can. They shoehorn it into the smallest engine bay imaginable. Then they use parts they have in their toy box. The front brakes are off of a Gladiator. The rear brakes are off of a Wrangler 4xe. The hood, well, it's like some Gladiator Mojave diesel export model. It's berserk, but it's so much fun. This is like the best of FCA, and I do really mean FCA, because I think we're going to see some big changes under Stellantis, which is Peugeot. I don't think the French are going to understand this. I don't think they're going to want to keep producing vehicles that get 11 miles per gallon in the city. It's so impractical, but it's so much fun. My prediction is this is going to be a 1, maybe 2 model year vehicle. I don't see this extending past 2023. I really don't. It's been 40 years since there's been a V8 open top Wrangler. Back then it was a CJ, and I think this is going to be the last one ever. Let's go back to the question that we started the whole video out with. Is the 392 worth the starting price of $74,000? Well, in my opinion, people aren't going to be cross-shopping the 392 with a standard Wrangler. I mean, keep in mind that this is $30,000 more starting than your typical base Rubicon, and I don't really think many folks are going to be cross-shopping the V8 Wrangler with your average Bronco either. In my mind, this vehicle is for one of two people. The first group of folks are people that buy the Wranglers and then put tires the size of Ted Cruz on them. In the past, those folks would have had to gone out and LS swap their Jeeps, you know, swap in some big massive Chevy V8. Well, Jeep has done it for you, and if you do happen to leave it stock, it comes with the full factory warranty. Now, the second group of people, I'm pretty sure about this, are going to be not what you expect. I have a feeling this is going to appeal to the G-Wagon crowd. Folks that may not necessarily come out here into the dirt, but folks that want the ultimate V8 SUV. Think Land Rover Defender V8. They want vehicles that make a statement about themselves, that they're outdoorsy. They want vehicles that are loud, that are, you know, just the top of their game. They don't necessarily care whether or not it has lockers and stuff, but they buy them because they like what it says about their personality. And I really do think that the 392 Wrangler kind of fits in that category. And if you cross up this with something like a G-Wagon, which starts at 125 or so, then yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. If you went out and bought a Wrangler and then spent $50,000 swapping in an LS3, then yeah, the 392 makes sense. If you want to get out here into the wild and really have fun, you can do it for much cheaper than the Wrangler. But if you want something just off the wall, you really can't beat it. Is there going to be a Hellcat? I highly doubt it. I think this is the top of the heap. I think from here on out, it's going to batteries and electrification. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is it worth $74,000 starting? I mean, that's a big ask for a Wrangler. It really is, and I understand that. But it does put one hell of a smile on your face. I mean, if you have a chance to drive one, even for a short period, just do it. It's just a wild experience. Well, as always, this has been Tommy. Check out TFLcar.com and TFLtruck.com and TFLoffroad.com now for the latest and greatest in Wrangler reviews.